plastics. And plastics is not something that is a challenge that is limited to certain industries or certain sectors, but it is a second biggest threat that the world is facing after climate change now. And this is very much connected with climate change also, because of course, the packaging industry, the trade, because of our consumption practices. Globally, it's a threat to wildlife biodiversity. You see, starting from the Mariana Trench depths, which is the deepest part in the world, and moving towards the height of Mount Everest, the highest point, and even beyond that, if you travel in space, you will find microplastics, because plastic has a tendency to degrade. And once it degrades into microplastics and nanoplastics. And the smaller the size, the kind of toxicity that is associated with it, because it can be integrated into your food system, your food chain, your body, your tissue. So that's a challenge. Secondly, when plastic is present in your environment, it is also a challenge for your urban resilience. It chokes your waterways. It affects the natural waterways, the root of the natural waters, and then it can cause urban flooding as well. So that is also a challenge. Third important aspect. When we talk about plastics, we also talk about circular economy. Circular economy is a systems approach that entails all other sectors, and the purpose is to minimize waste. We have seen that while converting towards renewable energy transition to achieve our climate agenda, there has been a lot of solar rush and solar boom throughout the world. But again, what about the end of life management of solar panels? How we are going to be managing the waste that comes with the clean transition about which we are talking about in order to achieve climate agenda. So I think this is going to be a systems approach that we need to discuss. Circularity is not just about plastics, but about all other sectors, and it is very much connected with our climate action goals as well. So how this can be integrated in our nationally determined contributions, that's also, these are some of the questions that we will be discussing. So today's webinar is based on two sessions. The first session is about climate, energy, and pollution interlinkages and solutions. That will be moderated by my colleague Ubaidur Rahman. And the second session will be around circularity, extended producer responsibility, and the way forward for Pakistan. We'll also be discussing a way forward in the region, South Asia region. So with that, I hand over the moderation of first session to Ubaid. Over to you.
Thank you so much, Zainab, and good evening, everyone, for joining us today on the World Environment Day on the theme of From Pollution to Solution, Strengthening Climate Action Through Circularity. And great to see Dr. Sandaud is with us as well. So yeah, with this, I'll be Zainab sort of initially said already, we've seen just like Zainab mentioned, because the first panel that we'll be focusing on is on the climate, energy, and pollution interlinkages and the solution. So since it's a very short and more of a forward-looking and a solution-oriented session, I'll keep it very brief from a scene setting perspective. But what we're mainly trying to sort of hear is the pathways and solutions that can be adopted for incorporating circularity within the energy sector, and how it can actually contribute to climate solutions, less pollution in the overall environment, especially looking into the plastic point that you talked about. So now, from where I see, we're sort of at a crossroads. Plastic industry supports hundreds and thousands, I mean, more than thousands of jobs in the both formal and the informal sector, and they contribute substantially to the economic growth. But at the same time, we are also seeing an sort of a waste crisis, one that has also caused the nation a substantial amount of money in the form of these additional costs, such as the health, environment, and lost opportunities. So how do we address this situation? And the intersection is actually going to be one of the very key points. So talking about open burning of plastics and landfill methane emissions, we fully understand how they're growing. Plastic waste itself has significant energy potential. But now fully understanding that waste to energy, I mean, it's definitely one of the very good solutions. But for plastics, I personally think that, it's waste to energy should not be the first priority. It should be the reuse or circularity should be the first, and the waste to energy comes a bit later. But given that such a large portion is currently ending up in the landfills, and for the open burning, waste to energy could also be a suitable option under many of the scenarios as well. So, transitioning away to circular economy models and integrating clean energy solutions offer a pathways to not only reduce this waste but also mitigate climate impacts as well. But I believe we'll be coming directly to the experts. So, let me just mention one point before I request Dr. Hassan Daud, but that won't be going into too much of the technical side, but more of a policy diplomacy oriented discussion that highlights how should we go forward. So making the discussion for today more people centric, more community centric as well. So let me very quickly in 30 seconds introduce. We'll be joined by Dr. Hassan. We're already joined by Dr. Hassan Daud Butt, who's the senior advisor at Energy China and also an associate professor at the Bahia University. We'll also be joined by Dr. Irfan Yusuf, who's working as the carbon markets climate change expert at the World Bank and UNDP. We have Mr. with us, Mr. Asad Mahmood, who's an energy efficiency and renewable energy expert, and Mr. Hamad Bashir, who's is one of the energy finance expert, and Saleha, who's currently leading the industrial decarbonization portfolio at SDP. So, firstly, directly, thank you so much, Hassan, for joining us, especially on the World Environment Days webinar. So, I mean, firstly, I'll be requesting everyone to let us know what messages would you like to give on this theme to the people of Pakistan and how particularly they can better integrate this climate resilience, plastic circularity and clean energy goals into their broader development agendas, and if what opportunities exist for aligning some of the infrastructure and industrial growth with this circular and low carbon goals as well. So with this, thank you so much, Dr. Hassan, for joining us. And with this, over to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And since you've asked me not to go into too many technical jargons and speeches, I think I will begin by what you've said. I think reminds me of an old Chinese saying that if you want to go fast, go alone, and if you want to go far, go together. And I think in that perspective, I think I want to congratulate SGPI for not just being the torch bearer, you also of clean energy and circular economy. I think also in terms of getting all the stakeholders together. Even today, I can see a broad-based audience and participants. So this is actually quite useful for us because I just want to, and I keep saying this, and I think even at a matter of repetition, I would say that we should be clear about one thing that this is no time for rhetoric. This is a time for tangible action. So whatever we do today is for our next generation. So therefore, our clarity, our interoperability and interconnectivity has to be, and it doesn't limit ourselves to being very national in our approach. We have to be cross-border in our approach. And why is this? Because when a climate-related event, an incident or calamity occurs, and the security and the reflection of poverty uh, mm, uh, that comes along with that, I think it has a reflection over borders also. So it's an agenda which is not just global, but in a regional context, it is very important. And whenever I talk of projects and when we talk of something so inspirational, I think we should look for best case scenarios also and stories to tell. And in that context, we do not have to look very far. We just have to look at China. And the most amazing achievement that they've done, and it was reported just last week, was that they have actually reduced 1% in their CO2 emission. And this 1%, and it happened during COVID also. But this time, it has happened while their industry and economy is growing during COVID, during any conflict, if the carbon emission, supply chain issues, carbon emission goes down, then of course, because you're using less cars, less movement, less transportation, less energy requirement. But now when there's energy requirement and the economy is growing around 5%, and of course the factory output is almost more than what was expected and almost the same numbers before COVID. So in that context, 1% reduction in CO2 is phenomenal. And why is this happen? Because of the new technologies that they have actually not just incentivized, but also widespread across their economy. So it's not just the industry, the household, the agriculture sector, just broad base, even there. So it's now become it's now fashionable to be green. And when I talk to youngsters, like most of you here, anything that you want to promote has to be fashionable, has to be in sync with how they think. Therefore, when you look at China and when you look at the number of EVs being sold, it's around 70% of their total selling percentage in terms of vehicle. So if 70% EVs are being sold, so the major buyers are youngsters ranging from 25 to age of 40. So this is young population as far as China is concerned. And why are they buying this? Because it is fashionable. It is, and it's not novel. It's very contemporary. So therefore, when you or I or anyone amongst us, because we are all being championing this for years after years, even supporting the government in their research also. I think while you incentivize, you should also look how you can make it popular in terms of its usage, how you can incentivize so that the cost of going green becomes cheaper. Unless it is not cheap, no one will adopt. And especially in terms of household, the major contributor, ladies and gentlemen, is the middle class. So if you incentivize and the cost of going green becomes low, they can immediately buy that idea and go beyond what is. So what I'm saying is, so we need to understand that behind the success of China lies long-term planning, policy coordination, scaled investment in infrastructure, manufacturing, and affordability. So these are this whole scheme that you have to follow. You can't keep change because new IGSEP is coming. So, rooftop solarization has happened. So the cost of energy and the demand of energy is gone low. I mean, you can't just plan year for year. You have to plan at least long term because, say, for example, one aspect of green energies are the hydel energy projects, and you can't just build hydel project. कि आज आपको ख्याल आया that tomorrow we want to have more energy, so just build hydel. It's not. It's not automatic. It's not robotic. So it has to be based on long term, and I hope that the role of PPMC will be critical in terms of uh, getting us all in energy sector and otherwise also in that. And therefore, in phase one, and I acknowledge the leadership which was there in planning of CPEC phase one, most of the projects were idle. While we keep talking about coal and we keep talking about thermal projects, most of the percentage were idle. And I'm proud to say that Suki Kinari was one investment, Azad Patan, Kohala, Karod. These are were a big time investment, and these are. And I would urge if there is a government official listening to me, and urge that these are your poster boys. Use them to showcase how well Pakistan has done, besides, of course, the route of solarization, which the government also incentivized. So what I mean to say is that NEPRA, NTDC, and they keep changing names and nomenclature and shapes of NEPRA and NTDC. These are playing ground of the government, whoever comes in. Whoever is in place there, I hope they continue with the policy of greening. SIFC should be brought in terms of support of the overall concept, especially green SEZ, which you actually been where you've been promoting it a lot, not just here but overseas also. And therefore, green energy, I would just end on this argument. Green energy, ladies and gentlemen, should reach every Pakistani. Unless you make it, the design is such that and if you limit to a certain element of the society, it will fail after a certain time. So it has to be broad based. It has to be not just urban based. It has to be the entire economy should be tailored around that. And, we have the budget coming soon. I think green energy should be incentivized there. We should also focus on Gilgit Baltistan and KP, because I still see they're off grid naturally and they keep complaining around that. But you can have off grid solutions for them, tailor made for them, so that household solarization with not a big energy demand can be met. So what my last request to all of you are, because even after 5 years we'll be the one who will be speaking about this again. Let's move beyond plans and policies, and let's move towards projects and performance, so that these tangible results can come down. Let us learn from China, let us learn from Vietnam, Malaysia. These are our neighbors. I mean, we can learn from them. And I think we need to make, and please remember this caption for your future discussion, let's make CPEC phase 2 green energy accelerator. If we can do that, I think on a strategic standpoint, in terms of our resilience, uh, diversifying our energy sector, all of this, and improving our energy security will have. Uh, and of course, while you move on that, and when you are working on that, it's a race against time. Let's all get together and make this country greener, make energy sector profitable, make the usage of EVs, uh, solar cells, solar batteries fashionable. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Hassan, for highlighting and setting this scene. And I fully agree. I mean, looking at China as one of the key models, that's really important. Few days back, we were even looking into one of the case studies of Guangzhou province and how the industrial parks, how importantly they do integrate the principles of circularity. And I fully agree, China has done a wonderful work on this. So just connecting that circularity and coming to Asad Mahmood Saab, and again, to see Dr. Irfan Yusuf has joined. Dr. Irfan, I'll just to you a bit shortly. But firstly, coming to Asad Saab. Asad Saab, thank you so much for joining us. We have a of question with you in talking particularly about the circularity in the plastic. So, I mean, firstly, it's how viable do you think these circular approaches, how important a transformative role do you think they play in Pakistan's plastic footprint, reducing Pakistan's plastic footprint, and more importantly, just beyond recycling and reducing this plastic, what do you believe are some of the most underappreciated yet very crucial actions that individuals can actually take to positively impact the environment as well? So with this, thank you so much, Asad Saab, and over to you. Asad Saab, you're not audible to us as of now. Asad Saab, you're not audible. So I think perhaps, yeah, we can perhaps, yeah, we'll just wait for Asad Saab a bit. Firstly, thank you so much, Dr. Irfan. I believe Dr. Irfan Yusuf has joined us. Thank you so much, Dr. Irfan. We did give you introduction a bit uh, previously as well. So let me just sort of come to you with the discussion. If you initially want to give any messages around the circularity and the importance of addressing plastic pollution and its interlinkages with energy sector, but given that you're also sort of leading one of the most important climate commitments, climate initiatives in Pakistan around the NDCs, how do you see the theme of plastic circularity, energy transition being integrated into Pakistan's national climate commitments? And again, from a diplomacy perspective, how can aligning those two agendas can actually enhance Pakistan's position in the global climate negotiations as well? Dr. Khan, if you want to add on to any particular points, please feel free to as well. So, thank you so much
Yeah,
for joining us. Over to you.
thank you, Beth. I'm very sorry for I thought that the event is going to start at 2 p.m. I just mixed up with the timelines, but nevertheless, allow me to turn off my video so that I should not be my voice should not be broken. Yeah, actually, there are two different elements that we are talking about. Number one is part the circularity that is related to the plastic and energy transition. First of all, yeah, as we know, the plastic waste is not being considered as one of the prime issues that's been faced globally. the GPAP, and then from the global perspectives, and NPAP from the national perspective. We have looked at that the government of Pakistan and world are committed to address this plastic waste issue. Um, Again, as I have been articulating, though waste is being considered is one of the major stumbling block in overall environmental health and integrity. But at this time, instead of keeping considering this as a threat, my take has always been that we should take this as an opportunity. Um, there is of course there are two things to manage. Number one, what we have to do with existing waste that is stockpiled, and the other, how to manage and curtailing the utilization of plastic in our daily use. Coming to the first one, there are a lot of opportunities to drive the waste into some productive uses. Likewise, the plastic can be reused for the construction industry in as a construction material. We can use it as a replacement for asphalt. We can use it as a major construction material as replacing steel rebars. And we also can look at how this plastic can be remolded and reused for different products that can come across in our daily use. I have seen certain products that have been made in cities like Karachi and Lahore, where they collected the waste and reused it for the purpose of making some molds, some decoration pieces, some other materials. So that means we can have multitude of uses that the waste is already there. Uh, in addition, the VEDA has already come up with a very vigorous methodology. We call it plastic credits. We can always develop some kind of a projects which can help assessing those plastic credits. And these plastic credits are tradable commodity. We can trade those plastic credits into the international market. So this can be the one side of looking at how we can attract the financing, how we can improve our project financials, how can we make our financials stream into a big business venture. The other thing is um, how to curtail the use of plastic in daily use. We have seen that it is difficult, very difficult, to impose bans and convince the people that this thing is bad and you cannot use it. Particularly if we do not provide any alternative to that. We have seen in our markets that most of the stores who are now replacing the plastic bags, they, instead of giving the cloth based or the paper made bags free of cost, they charge for it, which creates a nuisance among the people. And they always talk about, since the plastic bags were given free of cost, and why they are charging extra cost for these bags. If the government is interested to make a switch, then these bags should be promoted with no cost to end consumers. So these kind of things are coming across, and we need to raise voice for these kind of things. That if we want to encourage, then the alternative bags should be provided to the consumers, first of all freely, and second free of cost, so that they should not be overburdened with this replacement. Second important element is behavior management, which is the most difficult part. We can see some educated people, they would be transforming. We can see some communities, they would be doing this transformation at their own. But overall, this transformation requires a quite vigorous behavior management strategy. And for that purpose, I think government, social responsible entities, social enterprises, NGOs, they have to work together so that we can create a noise, as well as we build a knowledge base among the people, so that we should avoid using those plastic materials. Lastly, I have seen that in our construction industry, uh, most of the RCC based pipes and steel pipes have already been replaced by the plastic pipes, which is again turning to be adding to the what the calamities we are already facing, because after 15 years or 20 years these pipes will become redundant and will be then looking forward for managing those wasted pipes. We need to look for alternatives in sophisticated applications. We need to look at the alternatives in our industrial applications. We need to look at alternatives at commercial scale as well. And side by side, instead of uh, creating a push and convincing them that they do this transition forcefully, we need to get some financial incentives for them to look at this thing. The other question was with regards to your transition. Yeah, transition is very critical subject, particularly keeping in view that those people who are already involved in this business, particularly the fuel based market, coal based market, or even plastic circularity market, if they are involved, what alternatives we are providing to them so that they easily switch over. So we need to look at those alternatives. We need to find out how we can reskill those people who are involved in it, like the kabadiyas, the pickers who pick the waste, particularly this plastic waste, and they sell it to the commercial entities. If the plastic waste is reduced, what they will do, what will be their way of living. We need to give them some alternative. We need to reskill them, build their capacity, enhance their knowledge base so that they can transform their lives accordingly. Lastly, we need to create some commercial uh, uh, activities, new businesses, particularly keeping in view those people who will be uh, uh, facing the calamities while this switchover is being implemented. If I give you example of energy sector, last month the power division, they have they have they have indicated that they have shut down 4,000 megawatts of thermal power generation, but it can be seen that this shift was not properly handled, in my view, because those people who were working in those power plants have not been given adequate option, or they're not reskilled to look at how they will earn their bread and butter. They Some of them were shifted to some distribution companies. Some of them have been shifted to some other power plants. But are they doing justice to their what the job was assigned? It's a questionable. So we need to look at whatever action we are taking. It should be holistic, and it has a broad spectrum view, so that nobody feel overburdened with our the policy or technical or whatever decision we make.
Yes.
Lastly, we need to take care of those communities which we can call it marginalized communities. This is a global slogan. In any or every transition, we should not leave those marginalized communities and the people who are being affected, so that we can follow the global drive of leaving no one behind. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Irfan, for providing with a very good solutions, particularly talking about the different financing channels and instruments that can actually be mobilized, and that plastic credit sounds really good. And also the key points that you highlighted around having this institutional joint working collaboration, how they can actually support that. So I think just I'll take one and Asad Saab, like Asad Saab, definitely the recycling, reducing plastic that has been really out by Dr. Irfan. But looking beyond recycling and reducing plastic, what do you believe are some of the most underappreciated yet critical actions that the individuals can actually take to positively impact the environment, and how? And after this, I'll to Hamad with his so add the points on financing the Clean Energy and Circularity Initiative, but firstly on the technical and as well as on the more community centric and Asad Saab, if you can sort of
Yeah,
have your
exactly.
interventions first.
Yes, yeah. Like it's been more than 50 years we like this World Environment Day is like being celebrated. So like my like simple सादा सी जो submission होगी वो ये होगी कि we have to put our house in order. And that is something like आज मैं अभी इस्लामाबाद था मेट्रो के जरिए वापस आया तो the people रावलपिंडी वेस्ट मैनेजमेंट कंपनी वो they were like hanging the plastic banners, promotional content and things like that. So that is where the governance comes in. That we need to start, and sometimes like the local governments have to take the leading role in all these interventions and avoiding plastic wheresoever they can. And that is something like it's not only applicable on one specific government, but on like other departmental level as well and other areas, just like SDPI itself has taken interventions to get rid of the plastic bottles, and these small steps lead us towards the key terminology of micro steps or local know your local climate, know your community. And that is something which is something mostly neglected, and in all these things we also neglect the local microclimate or local biodiversity, which might be would have been in your surrounding in your childhood, but it is not there. Just like I used to see जो आपकी fireflies होती हैं and night time in nearby communities, in open area spaces, but now they are not there. And it's something like which is something वो जो आपको लोकल बायोडाइवर्सिटी आपको नेचर के करीब रखने के लिए और उनकी आपकी लोकल रिजिलियंस एंड उसको स्ट्रेंथन करती थी सारे पैरामीटर्स दैट आर they were like hampered or they were ignored because in the name of rapid environment or urban development, you can say. So my like some only submission would be that you have to focus on your micro environment, climate aspects, and अपने एरिया के रद्दी वाले के साथ मिलें, जानने की कोशिश करें कि आपके एरिया से किस किस्म का वेस्ट निकल रहा है and how you can contribute to that.
Thank you, Asad Saab. So fully again agreeing the change starts from within, and especially it has to eventually. I mean, especially जब जहाँ हम circularity की बात करते हैं तो the most relevant people exactly as जो आपने बात की बिल्कुल कि the people who are collecting these waste हमारे घरों से and taking it to the whole system. तो bringing them on board and South alignment, that's again really important, and things have to start from a very, very bottom up level as well. So thank you so much. Sir, we'll come back to you with one question towards the end. But firstly, coming to Hamad Bashir Saab, I mean, with this coming to you, that again, we eventually, Dr. Irfan has also sort of highlighted a few of the points. Hassan also touched upon that. But when we're looking in any of those starts even working around the clean energy or circularity initiative, or even really looking at actions, climate actions, finance, it eventually comes up to be a very important component. So, I mean, and you have actually worked a lot on this side. So perhaps one of the reasons why we'll be requesting you to sort of respond to it, that how do you think can we actually go about financing clean energy and circularity initiatives? And also I'll be requesting if you have any other message that you would like to sort of give on this World Environment Day towards the end as well. So with this, thank you so much for joining. Over to you.
Thank you very much. Am I audible?
Yes.
First of all, thank you very much to the STPI team for always arranging very important webinars and seminars on the burning topics, the topics which are very much important for our lives, our future, and related facets. So coming to the question that you asked, financing for the is important thing. Financing is important. Obviously, the most important thing for doing any project, any activity is the financing. And you're talking about the today's topic is solutions for this clean energy and solutions for dealing with pollution. So I would like to take the example of our project, which has been a global project, and that has been working on financing for circularity, EV, and it has called the PFAN model. PFAN is private financing advisory model. PFAN is not an organization, it's just a network. It is a network of financiers, it is a network of clean energy professionals, it is a network of circularity related experts that is working in more than 50 countries under the auspices of UNIDO, United Nations Industrial Development Organization. And it started in 2009 with the sole aim. The rationale behind this PFAN approach was that the circularity related projects, the clean energy projects, they are very good for environment related projects, the environment, but somehow financial institution. So there is a gap between the projects and financial institution. And that gap is, this is what they identified, that the gap was lack of feasibility study and lack of transaction advisory. So this is the place where the role of PFAN comes. PFAN comes and PFAN fills that gap by sponsoring the cost of advisory, the cost of transaction advisory, as well as feasibilities. They sponsor the cost of feasibility and transaction advisory and make these clean energy, the circularity and related environment-friendly projects bankable, and then connect them with financial institution. That financial institution could be banks, it could be DFIs, it could be VC funds, it could be individual investors, it could be institutional investors, it could be, and the type of financing could be, it can be debt, it can be equity, it can be anything, as long as it is acceptable to the project owner. So the PFAN works the same way. They connect them, they arrange the financial close, and once they arrange the financial close, the role of PFAN finishes. So it is now the project and the financial institution that works. And in that whole process, we do not give grant to these projects in cash form. We sponsor the cost of transaction advisory, because we have seen this thing that those projects that get grants, they are often not sustainable, and they only run up to the time the grant is available, and after that they are not. So this model is a proven model, and that is very sustainable model. Globally, under the PFAN, we have raised $3.5 billion for clean energy, for circularity and related projects, and that is all documented. PFAN.net is the website. And if we talk of particular Pakistan, we have an exclusive project for Pakistan that was started in 2020 and till 2024. That 4 years project was focusing on arranging financing for clean energy, EV, and circularity. So when we say clean energy, it's all just like Dr. Hassan mentioned about hydro in GB. We supported that projects also, this kind of projects also. The second, it is hydro, it can be solar, it can be waste to energy, it can be biomass, it can be any form of clean energy. It can be wind also, though wind was not priority. And the second pillar was EV. EV, and when we say EV, we are not just talking about EV two-wheeler, three-wheeler, we are talking about the whole value chain. That includes charging station, that includes EV two-wheeler, EV three-wheeler, batteries, battery manufacturing, or anything that is part of the EV value chain as a whole, or as one component, or anything that is related to the EV, even a fintech app or any app that supports EV transition. That is also, we supported those ideas. And third is the circular economy. So when we say circular economy, this is just like today's topic, the zero waste solutions and any solution that is aimed at reducing pollution, that is aimed at reusing the waste. We supported these ideas. And when we say we supported these ideas, these were not ideas of the large companies. Our target was only SMEs, the medium-sized projects and smaller size projects. So our ticket size was starts with $1 million to $50 million. And our target was only the private sector projects, not the government projects and not the projects in the IPP modes, because they are bigger projects, they involve more government involvement. So we supported small projects, and in that process, we piloted another project that is to support startups in these domains. And I spearheaded that activity, and we got very good results of financing, getting financing for circularity related startups. I'll give you one example of ISP, that is a woman-led initiative, started out of Lahore when they were part of our previous project also. And when they applied to us, it was an idea scale project. Now, Alhamdulillah, they are a huge company having hundreds of employees, and they are providing industrial waste solutions to many multinational corporations, to many factories, to many industries, and they are growing rapidly. Similarly, we also supported a few other circularity related startups having innovative ideas. I'll give you another example of very interesting idea, that is Dawam. Dawam is a Karachi-based startup. They came up with an innovative idea that they searched this thing that these plastic bottles, the shampoo bottles, and other, even the oil, the plastic bottles of oil, cooking oil, and all those things, they are expensive, and they are obviously not good for environment, being plastic, and they are not being recycled properly. So they came up with a solution that they designed a whole indigenously developed, 100% developed, indigenously developed in Pakistan, a vending machine for shampoos, for cooking oil, for multiple other items. And they said, they researched this thing that sometimes the packaging cost is 30% and 40% of the product cost. Like the shampoo that we are buying, 30% cost is the shampoo's plastic bottle, or sometimes 40%. So what they are doing is that they are not marketing it as a environment friendly project, because unfortunately in Pakistan people are not very environmentally conscious, because if they market it as an environment friendly, people might not buy. People are price conscious in many developing countries, not only in Pakistan. So now they are, out of the 40%, they are giving 20% discount to the customer, and then 20% is their margin, or 10% is their margin. They have installed these devices in different shopping centers, then cash and carry, and they have an agreement with multiple uh, uh, factories, multiple consumer items, and organizations for shampoo, for cooking oil, and they have diversified into multiple other areas. You can find that in many areas in Karachi, in Lahore. They are also launching it in Islamabad also. So we arrange financing for them, and they are diversifying into multiple other areas. Uh, and that includes sanitary uh, items for women, and they installed in the different girls hostels and girls universities and colleges. And then the other items which can be, and in all the way, or in all of these vending machines, the idea is to reduce the waste, to encourage recycling, to encourage, to produce lesser plastic waste. So these are the ideas that were very
Yes.
successful. These are the success stories. And even these success stories, like the WAM, they were being called by international few organizations also, and to share their success story with them. So there are lots of other success stories, even like of startups with innovative ideas in the domain of clean energy that we supported. And that was a very good initiative. And just like the topic today is about solution, and most important thing for any doing anything, just like I said earlier, is financing. So in this way, we arrange financing for these kinds of projects that
Perfect.
bring a very good fruit. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Ahmad Bakri Saab, for highlighting the channels and the work that PFAN has definitely done. And that is, again, startups, how they can actually be facilitated, really important. I'll be coming to Saliha, and after that, I'll just be requesting each of the panelists to just sort of spend 30 seconds in highlighting uh, if they have any further messages to give on the World Environment Day. But before that, let's go towards our speaker, Saliha Qureshi. Saliha, after the Industrial Decarbonization Program at STPI. So, Saliha, I mean, looking into, I mean, Dr. Hassan initially sort of mentioned one of the things that is about the construction industry and how important these circularity initiatives are there. Even if we, as of now, look into the in waste sector, Pakistan, I mean, cement industry is again one of those industries that eventually now, over the last few months, or perhaps 6 months to 1 year, they have actually started shifting significantly towards the waste use of waste in their energy processes, especially the hard to abate sectors. Because again, if you talk about the coal, one thing is that there's already a drive to transition away from the coal based power plants. And at the same time, now we're also about to sort of come up into the regime of a carbon tax. As well as then industries again have to sort of look into their some of the export compliance mechanisms. So in your perspective, what potential pathways do you think industries can actually adopt to integrate waste into their energy systems? And what viable solutions do exist for scaling such approaches in Pakistan's context, as well, considering the technological, regulatory, and financing challenges? So, yeah, what do you say?
Yes, thank you very much, Ubad, and thank you, STPI, for organizing such a wonderful dialogue on the World Environment Day. So I would start with a quote of Albert Einstein that we can't solve problems by using the same kind of thinkings we used when we created them. So while looking into the perspective of the other speakers and also the things that are happening right now in the country and globally, we are lacking the right approaches, right directions, and timely actions for so many things. So firstly, if I go towards the plastic, so I would say that there needs, I think Zainab would better communicate on that perspective as well, that we need to understand the single use of plastic is not bad, but we need to educate the people, educate the masses, that how to manage, how to use the plastic, so we can create such innovative things that can be, cheap and available to the masses in that context. So coming to the point on the industries, as a lot of speakers have said that there's a lot of potential for the waste. A lot of waste is there in the urban areas like Karachi and Lahore. So it offers an immense potential for the industries or for the solid waste management to manage such waste into useful commodity. So one of the survey we did with the cement industry, that they have shown a considerable impact, that how the waste or the especially the agriculture waste can be utilized in the industrial processes, and how it can reduce the CO2 emissions as well as the low cost for the industries. So on that side, that the crop residues from the lands provide an essential element for the cement industry to reduce CO2 emissions. Almost it is estimated that 120,000 tons per day is produced in Pakistan. So we have a lot of potential in that. But the value chain, or the upfront cost, and the whole value chain that can transfer the waste to the industry, it takes a lot of time and a lot of investment in that perspective as well. So for the cement industry, we talk about that. The sugar, cane mud press, or is used as an alternative fuel, which has been utilized in the industry for the 6 months and has shown a considerable effects. It creates new opportunities for waste biomaterial utilization, and also it has a potential to replace 5 to 6% of coal on a mass basis. While there are also challenges with the using mud press, it's 4 times more mud press is required to substitute 1 ton of coal. So it has lower energy intensity, and it's not available year round, making consistent supply to it's a challenge. So that's a potential that can be used in the industry. When going towards the further things that are around or the hot topics in Pakistan right now, when we are talking about the solar panels or the EVs, so we are missing that perspective as well. That we are when we are going towards one thing, we are lacking the whole whole ecosystem, that how we can manage. We have a good example that we have, 22,000 megawatt of solar panels imported in Pakistan, but we don't have a mechanism that how we can recycle its valuable materials. What would be the mechanisms? I think that's the area where the governments and the key stakeholders would have to be, pitch in and have to work on these areas. Otherwise, we will create one opportunity and making too much, disruptions and too much problems to the society. So that's the right time that we need to work on that. And also, same is with the EVs, that we know that the EV market is also coming into action in Pakistan, and the policies here, and we are just proposing that there must be certain number of EVs by this timeline. So I think we should work collectively and inclusively, that how we can use their valuable materials, or how we can recyclable their valuable materials. And right now we should have that approach. Otherwise, we will make a huge, another burden, another problem to the climate as well. So one of the, there are another issue in Pakistan is that we have lot of plans, but we don't have a direction that how we can implement these plans. One of the opportunity right now is, I think, NDCs. We have there are certain countries who have, write down the circularity approaches in the NDCs, but they mention that they will achieve this percent of renewables by this year, but they don't have plan that how they can manage this. If we're talking about the solar panels or EVs, that how they can manage these things in their NDCs. So we should have that plan in plan or project, that how we can utilize that potential, or we can recycle
Yes.
these
Yeah.
materials. Otherwise,
Yeah.
we will make a huge mess for that. I
Yeah.
think most of the things have been covered, but on the regulatory side, I would say that Pakistan lacks regulatory framework on the extended producer responsibility, which should mandate the solar panel recycling. We also are in the plan, and I think that the government should work on that. The national solar waste policy for the reverse logistics and materials recovery to mitigate future problems. And I think there's job for different
Thank you. Yes.
stakeholders to on that as well. So I think
Thank
I'll
you.
stop there.
Thank you so much, Saleha. Dr. Irfan, just before you leave, we just need 30 seconds of yours, because I believe we're just on time, but we'll just request you to, in 30 seconds, highlight one key message that you want to give to the people on the World Environment Day. Yeah, and after that, I'll request Dr. Hassan Daud Bhatt as well. So yeah, Dr. Irfan, over to you.
Thank you, Beth. My simple message would be that this is our joint responsibility to keep our environment clean, and keep this world livable for the generations to come. We have to join hand together, work in a very conjunction manner, with holistic approach to give a sustainable and environmentally sustainable world to our nation to come. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Dr. Irfan. Dr. Hassan Daud, but if you would like to sort of, yes, add any last point from your end? No, I think, Satsab, just you already were very brief and to the point, but still I must
thank you. I think
Dr. Hassan,
we
please.
should take our bet. Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, please.
Yeah. So I'll keep my video down so that connection is better. I think we should select our battles carefully. So it cannot be, green and transition, plastics, and waste management, and all of it together. So I think from our side, because we are in the policy making framework, we should set up short-term, mid-term, and long-term goals, and then accordingly we should set up deliverables for that through projects, through initiatives, and then force the government, or at least convince the government to not look at the risk first and the opportunity later. It should be otherwise. They should look at opportunity first and risk later and then make a larger policy plan around that. Our challenges is
Perfect.
continuity of policy. Our challenges are continuity of policy. If we can address that, I think we can win this battle much easier.
Thank you so much, Dr. Hassanji. Sasab, if you have any last point, and then I'll come back to Zainab. Uh,
जी जी बिल्कुल like I try to finish on a funny note, like let's clean up our act faster than we clean our plates after biryani. So less plastic, more fantastic.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Sasab. Thank you so much to all the speakers of this session. And with this, Zainab, it's back over to you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Abed, for moderating a very important session. I think we have received really good recommendations, and also from Mr. Hamad Bashir. I think it's been a great learning. We also work with startups and SMEs, and Dawam is indeed a success story. There are many others, and I hope like the kind of work PFAN is doing. I think we need this kind of work in order to support SMEs and startups. Thank you, Dr. Irfan, highlighting very important sectors where circularity can play an important role. Now, starting with next session, I am going to start with the next session, which is about circularity, EPR, and the way forward for Pakistan. The speakers for this session include Humaira Jahanzeb, who is the national lead for National Adaptation Plan, and is also working in a context of UN Living in this initiative. We have also been joined by Mr. Zia Haider Naki, who is the CEO of Spell Group. This organization is also a member of Core Alliance. Mr. Razi Mujtaba, who is the National Promoting Rights and Social Inclusion Project at ILO Pakistan. Mr. Ranga Palawala, who is the Climate Change and Environment Policy expert at EU Switch Asia Policy Support Component. Ms. Nazifa Butt is also joining us shortly. She's the Director of Climate Action and Sustainability at WWF. Last but not the least, Dr. Abid Suleri is joining us shortly for his remarks. So before I request the speakers for intervention, I would like to highlight the challenges that we have here in context of plastics. Just one. I think there has been some confusion. So the session was divided into the entire webinar was divided into two sessions. First session was focused around more energy, NDCs, and climate action, and how circularity can be made part of it. And this is the second session in which we'll be discussing about plastics, extended producer responsibility, way forward, and how the role of informal sector is important. So without further ado, I would like to request Dr. Abid Qayyum Suleri, Executive Director of STPI, for his opening remarks. Over to you, sir.
Well, thank you, Zainab. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you very much for joining us on World Environment Day, which is just yet another reminder of the extent of plastic pollution and how we can actually beat it. Now, when we talk of plastic and its impacts on countries like Pakistan, one feels that it is, as everywhere, has become an essential part of our daily life, starting from our ocean to our rivers, to the farmlands. One can find plastic everywhere, and especially when it chokes the urban drains. That's where it causes urban flooding. When it contaminates the rural waste mass, which used to be utilized as organic manure in the fields, now due to the plastic, farmers, they are unable to actually add that rural waste in their field. And on top of it, the empty containers, plastic containers of pesticides and herbicides, they have become another menace and contaminating our water qualities. But having said it, the knee-jerk reaction to plastic pollution, banning it where we don't have enforcement capabilities, I think that is not possible. And in my opinion piece in one of the newspapers in Pakistan today, I have quoted the stories that The Economist magazine ran in April 2025. And basically, they tried to portray the case that the plastic has become an essential component of our life, whether we are talking of safe packaging of our food material, whether we are talking of safe transportation of food material in airtight packs, whether it is about the syringes that we use during COVID vaccine or the PEP material. For all of them, plastic had become a necessity. And the conclusion that they came up with, and I concur with it, that the major problem is not the existence of plastic. The major problem is the way we are managing it.
Dr.
And
Suleri, I think there's some connectivity issue. We can't hear you.
can you hear me
Your
now?
video and audio is stuck.
Okay, Zainab, I could hear him actually. Maybe it's with a few computers, not sure with the others.
No, we can
Yeah,
hear
I
you.
can
also hear very well.
loud.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. So the major problem is not plastic. The major problem is the way we are managing it, and we have failed to manage it. And I think the way forward is reducing the single use of plastic and plastic where it's possible. The way forward is not only the policies, but also the mechanism that can enforce implementation of those policies. And the way forward is providing infrastructure for recycling and grading and segregation of the waste material. And for this very purpose, I think we also need to put some burden on developed countries which have been exporting plastic waste to countries like Pakistan. Pakistan also import plastic waste. A part of it gets recycled, but a major part of it goes to incineration. And I think following the principle of climate justice, the same argument that we give in case of climate justice, that we shouldn't bear the burden of the consumption or irresponsible consumption in Western countries to tackle with climate change issues. We should not bear the brunt of irresponsible consumption of plastic in Western countries. And the plastic waste exporters, they should co-finance at least the recycling facilities and infrastructure in countries like Pakistan. And finally, it's about ERP, this EPR, Extended Producer Responsibility, as well as the EPC, Expanded Consumer Responsibility, EPR and ECR. We have to consume responsibly, and producer, they have to produce responsibly, so that we can contain and we can beat this plastic pollution. Thank you once again for joining us.
Thank you so much, Dr. Suleri, for highlighting the context and also sharing with us an important way forward around plastics. And it's just not about one industry or sector. It requires a systems approach to tackle the issue. With this, I would now be inviting Humaira Jahanzeb, who's also the team lead of National Adaptation Plan and also led Living in this initiative. So Humaira, before I move towards our industries and other speakers, one of the key challenges that I foresee and that many are not talking about is that the plastic waste, it chokes the waterways. It is very much linked to urban climate resilience. So when we talk about adaptation, how significant it is that we've also prioritized managing plastics, and what are some initiatives that you are taking under NAP and Living in this in context of plastic waste, especially in collaboration with the Ministry of Climate Change, because both these initiatives are being led by Ministry of Climate Change and Environment Coordination in close collaboration with the United Nations. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Zainab. And congratulations to SDPI and Dr. Abid Suleri for organizing, as always, this very pertinent, seminar, webinar on the World Environment Day. We bringing everyone together. So this year's theme, as we all know, is Beat Plastic Pollution. It is very timely, it is urgent, and it is deeply relevant for Pakistan. So we all know that plastic pollution is not just a waste issue. It is a climate matter and it is also a development issue now. And in Pakistan, where floods, heat waves, and water stress are already intensifying due to climate change, plastic waste only deepens our vulnerabilities. Yes, Zainab, like you said, it chokes our rivers, it contaminates our food, it clogs our cities, and it undermines the very ecosystems we rely on for survival. And in this case, I'd be talking about the Indus River, which is the backbone of our civilization and of our economy and our agriculture. And just like you said, this is why it is very important to not work with fragmented solutions, but with integrated whole of society approach. So I will now speak as the team lead or the program manager for the Living Indus and the National Adaptation Plan, two of Pakistan's flagship climate frameworks supported by the United Nations system and the Ministry of Climate Change. So one of the projects is a GCF funded one that basically looks at building capacities to promote the NAP process in Pakistan. And so one of the outputs of this project is the NAP document that was, approved by the cabinet in 2023. And basically, the project facilitates the Ministry of Climate Change, the government across Pakistan, and the communities with the overall objective of building their capacities and sort of increasing their resilience. So through this project, the NAP team is providing technical support. It helps with, concept note formulation, which leads to then resource mobilization, and there's generally an overall capacity building element to it. So the NAP, which is one of the outputs of the project that I'm working on, was approved by the cabinet in 2023, and it is designed to reduce our climate vulnerability and build long-term resilience. Now, the NAP, as most of us would know, it works around 6 key vulnerable sectors, including agri-water nexus. So we have urban resilience, we have natural capital within it, there's human capital, there's disaster risk reduction, and gender and social inclusion. Now, each of these vulnerable sectors, if you look at it individually, is impacted, by plastic pollution or by waste, as if we can call that. And each one of it provides an opportunity for a systemic change. So let's say if we look at urban resilience, we are promoting through the NAP and its implementation, climate smart waste systems that reduce plastic pollution and improve public health. In natural capital, we're looking to restore wetlands, mangroves, rangelands. Many of our natural ecosystems, as we know, are suffocating under plastic waste. If we talk about gender and social inclusion, we're empowering local communities. We're talking to women, we're talking to youth, and we're already innovating with alternatives, circular models, and also local cleanup campaigns, as you would know. So it's a sort of a whole of society approach that we're following in both the projects. Now, as far as the Living Indus initiative is concerned, we all know that it is a broader umbrella initiative. It provides a broader ecological vision, and it is a plan basically to restore the ecological health of the Indus River system. We all know that the Indus sustains 90% of Pakistan's economy. It, helps 80% of Pakistan's agriculture. So addressing plastics is one of those key 25 interventions identified under the Indus program. And we're working with partners to reduce the plastic flow into the river and its tributaries. And to do that, we've had support from UNEP and partners like yourselves. We've worked with SDPI on small pilots around promoting action against marine litter. We've worked around the normative side of, the policy side of issues The government of Japan has helped us with this work. We're also worked with the Institute of Global Environment Studies, and together with your organization, we've now formulated the National Circular Economy Policy, which is, as we speak, with the Ministry of Climate Change for review. And while the circular economy policy, it looks at 5 key areas. Within waste, we have the phasing out of single-use plastics and introducing EPR for plastic packaging. We have implementing eco-design and take-back schemes for e-waste, promoting composting and biogas production from organic waste. We're also working together with SDPI on within the NAP, that is within the National Adaptation Plan. We're working with SDPI on developing district adaptation plans for districts within KP and Baluchistan, and we also plan on going into Punjab and Sindh for the same. We're also currently looking at restoring one of the lakes in Sindh that goes by the name of Narari. So Narari Lake is one of the other key projects that we're working for. So both the Indus program and the NAP together, they're working towards addressing various interrelated matters. And of course, it looks at biodiversity, at climate change, and at plastic pollution as well. So we're working to address the triple planetary crisis, as we may call it. But one important thing in all of this, in which SDPI really excels, is bringing all the voices together. So whether it's refusing a plastic bag, or supporting local green businesses, or participating in any river cleanup campaign, every voice matters. So with that, Zainab, I'll hand over to you. And of course, we can talk more about, the details of any of the aspects that I've just raised. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Amara, for highlighting the very important interventions that are being led under these 2 initiatives. And I'm sure that many other stakeholders who have joined us today will be joining us for NAP and Living Indus initiative as well, so that we can collectively, as you said, every voice matters, take these initiatives forward and approach the communities, with a trickle-down approach where actual adaptation and actual, resilience is needed, whether it's plastics, whether it's climate change. So thank you for your interventions. Now, before again moving towards industry side, I think we have, yes, Mr. Ranga Palavala has joined us. So Mr. Ranga, thank you so much for joining us from Switch Asia team. As many of us who have joined us today, and those who don't know, with Switch Asia have been working on extended producer responsibility frameworks and what could work best for Pakistan. And also, one of the most important things that I think because of the help from Switch Asia that we did at last year's COP, was to raise the context around circular economy and its integration with NDCs. And before Baku COP, I think the discussion around circular economy was not, it was not part of the mainstream agenda at COPs. But last year, because of the Switch Asia's efforts, it's been discussed at regional level, and a lot of discussions happened on how the role of public-private partnerships matter and what the policy side needs to do. So with that, Mr. Ranga, and sharing your experience and perspective from the region, how do you see countries like Pakistan can take a forward-looking approach when we talk about plastic waste management, and especially the extended producer responsibility frameworks? Over to you.
Right. Thank you, Zainab, and thank you very much, SDPI, for the extending invitation to Switch Asia program. As a kind of a stepping stone to my answer for the question, the plastic, of course, it's a kind of a newly man-made issue in the world. But if you look at the pollution control, but it's a part of the triple planetary crisis, what we are talking about. It's not only just the pollution, but we are talking about the 3 triple planetary crises: the climate change, loss of biodiversity, and pollution. And all these 3 crises are interconnected. And we might not be able to solve one of these challenges as a silo or an isolated way. So we need to have this kind of a holistic view in the whole process and hold the next way, the steps. And of course, we know that there's a big the process going on to agree on a global treaty on the beating the plastic pollution, and we have realized that we need to do a kind of a collaborative effort to manage this. Of course, I'm not going to touch into the global treaty, but I would like to emphasis about this, the interconnectedness and looking at the holistic process. And in this approach, the circular economy is quite important. We need to transform our economies to circular economies, because we all know we are living with a limited amount of resources in the world. And the utilization, extraction, and producing of different things from the resources are quite important to achieve the sustainable development targets nationally and globally. So whatever the development targets, it's linked to the resources. And at the same time, the non-circular models creating the pollution effects, and plastic pollution is one that we have not been moving into the circular models, and converting that is the economic model to circular is quite important. And as I mentioned, it's a transformative process. We can't achieve it a kind of a rapid onset kind of a process. It need to be transformative efforts. Each and every stakeholder, whether it's a government, whether it's a private, or whether it's a civil society, everyone has a role to play. And therefore, it's complex because of the heterogeneity of all three, the strata that I mentioned. It need to be transformative, and therefore it need to start from the policy, and it's about the policy, the implementation, and of course it need to be the locally or the nationally appropriate based on considering the conditions. In that process, of course, the extended producer responsibility (EPR), of course, playing a major issue, kind of a role. It's a kind of a tool that which we can use for the transformation, not just for the management of waste, but of course transformation towards circular economy. So that's the beauty of it. Of course, the early generation of EPR tools and the EPR considerations were just merely looked as a kind of a waste management approach or waste minimization approach, but now we see kind of it triggers the transformation towards circular aspects. Of course, we are happy to excuse me. We are happy to recently concluded to say that we recently concluded one national Pakistan workshop on the understand what are the enablers for the EPR the systems. Not only Pakistan, we did it in few other countries in the Asia Pacific region, and we found there are several enablers. But when you are talking about enablers, as I mentioned, those are interconnected, and it's need to come the producers, the consumers, and the recycling organizations, the government, the local government, everyone need to come into play. So creating conducive environment is a kind of a joint, need to be a kind of a joint effort. This is what we emphasized during Pakistan workshop, and I think those recommendations are quite important. One important thing is that the circularity in plastic, of course, it's not merely recycling per se. It starts from designing of products and the consumer, the regulations for product designs, new innovations, everything needs to come into play. And of course, we also discuss about the financing and creative conducive environment for the private sector to move into extended producer responsibility and how to reduce the burden on the consumers. And what we need to say is that the circularity, of course, there is a business model. We are looking at pumping back material to the production cycle, and we know rather than the virgin material, the secondary material value is reflecting now in the product, the prices and the markets. So therefore, overall understanding of the economic value and the business models is quite important, and private sector needs to play a role there. And as I mentioned, it's not just recycling. So the product design and the innovation is also quite important. So the overall the innovation ecosystems and the startup ecosystem in the country also play a crucial role to implement successful EPR systems, plus transformation toward the circular economy as well. So I'll stop there, and I'll allow other speakers also to include their views on this. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Ranga. And I think one of the best things that even I've learned while working on EPR framework is that it must not be considered as something to penalize the industries. It should be considered as a tool that transforms this sector, so that every aspect, every sector comes together to address the challenge that we have, and also to minimize the kind of that are felt when we talk about plastic waste and the ways to either ban it or reduce it. So thank you for your contribution. Now I would like to request Mr. Zia Haider Naki, who is representing Spell Group here, and also along with, of course, Nazifa, the Core Alliance. So Mr. Zia, you are somebody who understands the context around plastics in Pakistan very well compared to any other person working in the industry. That's my personal opinion, because I have been listening you and I have been working with you, especially in Core Alliance, which is Pakistan's largest packaging alliance. So there are so many aspects that needs to be considered when we talk about plastics, and especially the bans that are now being imposed in different provinces, how industries are suffering, and also what are the ways that industry should adopt, because plastics is a challenge that needs to be addressed. So again, you have heard our other speakers also. I would request your intervention in this perspective. Over to you.
Thank you, Zainab. I think Dr. Abid, gave the perspective of plastics is not bad. It's how you consume and then put it in the waste bucket is what matters. So I think I will try and share a small slide with all of you, if possible.
Yes, you can share it.
Can you see this slide?
Yes, we can see your slides.
Great. So let me put this, if I can. Can you see it now?
Yes, we can see it. It's in
Great.
the slide.
Okay, so basically, it's not plastic. It's the system with which we handle plastics and waste. So I've given a few basic understandings. Waste is something which is not inevitable. You can consume 100% of things. For example, compostables, you can eat and then you can use its covering to make marmalade. Right? So everything is not inevitable. So it results basically from us as consumers. In Punjab, I can tell you that of the total solid waste that we produce, 65% is compostable. But the worst thing that we do is put the recyclables, the compostables, the waste in one bag. Once we do that, we now are doomed. The first thing we have to do is segregate. Then we can move on. But how do we segregate? Plus, there's a very important legal question that we have yet to answer as a society. And that is, who owns the waste once it gets out of your home? The actual ownership of that waste by law in Pakistan goes to the government. So once it goes to the government, what are we now asking the producers, the brand owners to do? Because their hands are tied. This question, I think, will haunt us for some time before we can find a solution to this problem. The second problem that we have created ourselves is that we have made climate and environment a provincial subject rather than a common subject across all provinces and boundaries. So, which really means that if somebody is producing a product in, let's say, one province, becomes an exporter to the of the same product to another province, how do you legally bring him to do the EPR required? So these are the questions that we need to answer. Okay, so the gap is not if plastic is recyclable or not. 80% of the plastics that we usually use are recyclable. It is how we handle it. So it's the infrastructure, our collection systems, our sorting technologies. So these are the things that will require us to work very hard if we want to create a circular economy. Similarly, bans, as you said. If ban was the answer, the smuggling would never have happened in our country. Any country, I would say. So bans are not solutions. We have to incentivize people to go for circularity. I should be willing to segregate paper and plastic and metal and glass and my e-waste into separate bins and then allow the government to take away the segregated waste. So we are still playing the blame game, right? Plastics are bad, you know. For example, construction waste is probably the largest waste that is created in the country. We don't talk about it. Plastic is recyclable, construction waste is harder to recycle. So these are the things that we need to, take into account. The other challenges that we have, as you want to talk about EPR, is poor data infrastructure. We don't have data infrastructures in the country. If you want to find out how much plastic is being consumed in Pakistan, there are numbers floating between 2 million and 4 million. Right? When Pakistan imports and produces a net plastic of 2.1 to 2.4 million tons, how can we produce a waste of 3.9 million tons? So the numbers that we have are not dependent. Then we have to have systems in place where monitoring can occur. What you cannot measure, you cannot recycle. So the measurement is important. Then we have to incentivize rather than penalize, as you rightly said, that EPR is not something which is there for penalizing. It is there to incentivize. Today, you cannot find a PET bottle lying in the waste. Why is that? Because there is a robust recycling system and a collection system and a stream which allows circularity of PET. Same you cannot find about shampoo bottles. So all rigid plastics, most of them are recyclable and are recycled because they have an intrinsic value. So if we can create intrinsic value for the waste, we will be able to recycle it. I think I'll stop here because there are so many things that we can talk about. And Nazifa is here. I think she's ready to talk about these things. So good luck to all of you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And I think in just 2 slides, you have indeed highlighted the very challenges that we have. And one of them is the challenge around data, the figures being quoted without realizing that how much is the plastic that we are importing. How can we generate plastics equivalent to the height of 2K2 mountains that gets quoted in international forums as well. So yeah, I think it's without data, any policy, anything, any bans, it's never going to work. So thank you for highlighting those. Before coming towards Nazifa, I think there's another important sector that gets missed out when we talk about plastic waste management, and that is the informal sector. Uh, because informal sector has an extremely important role, and it is often overlooked, not just in context of social aspects, but also in context of their key role, even when we are talking about recyclability or collection aspects, because waste management is something that's very much specified and very much linked to the some of the urban centers in Punjab, or maybe in some areas in the federal areas also, federal Islamabad also, but it's not something that's very much integrated into other provinces. So I think that's where informal sector is very much integrated. For that, we have Razi. Razi Haider Mushtaba from ILO Pakistan, who has been working in this sector and has been closely organizing, the different research aspects and discussing with key informants on how informal sector is playing its role. So over to you, Mr. Razi, for your interventions, and then I'll request Nazifa for her take also.
Thank you very much, Ms. Zainab, and it's really important, and you have all conducted a seminar on a very important topic on Environment Day. And I have been listening to all the interventions, and really they were all important. From the ILO perspective, I would like to highlight one thing. We talk about plastic, what plastic does to environment, what plastic, how circularity helps and things like that. But, one important part of the equation, the people working in the plastic value chain, the workers, what about them? What about them? In what conditions are they working? What are the hazards that they're facing, occupational safety and health hazards? What are the diseases that they're getting by virtue of working with the plastic? What are the decent work deficits that they face? What about their salaries? What about their, social security? What when they get sick? What? I talk about this because each agency has a different perspective. International Labour Organization, as all of you may well know, it's a 103 years old organization. And the main perspective of the International Labour Organization is to promote decent work conditions for all kind of workers, whether they are industry workers, whether they're working in the offices, whether they're working in the informal economy. Now, when we come to talk about plastic, or when we come to talk about the informal economy in the world constitutes more than 60%. In Pakistan, it is more than 60%, right? So it is very important that those workers who are an integral part of the informal economy, who are contributing with their sweat and brawn, what are they getting in return? What are the efforts that we as individuals, we as organizations are making to promote decent work for them? So in the ILO, I have had the good fortune of working in a project which is funded by the government of Japan. And I have been working in this since 2021. And it is basically a project which aims to promote decent work in the informal economy. So the two important things and the two important sectors where we are working, one is the domestic workers, who are an important pillar of the informal economy in Pakistan, and one are the sanitation and plastic value chain workers. Recently, with the collaboration of UNEP, we had some intervention, training and capacity building interventions in the Sahiwal with regards to the plastic waste value chain workers. And then we had a research study also. The research study revealed that the conditions of the workers are terrible. They are working without getting the minimum wage. They are working without any PPEs. They are working without any specialized training for that. And there are no contracts. So it's a total lack of decent work. And these are some of the things that need to be addressed by all of us. Because when we talk about the environment, when we talk about the, industries, promoting circularity, promoting, everything that is good production. But if you minus and if you don't look at the human factor that is contributing to all of those plastic production, whether it be plastic recycling, whether it's plastic production or whatever, then I'm sorry to say, then we are missing a very important element. So this is something that we all as individuals, as I already told, and the SDGs, SDG 8 particularly talks about, the promoting decent work. The SDGs on poverty. If you look at the workers who are working in the plastic value chain, they are not even getting, minimum wages. So they are in the vicious circle of poverty. Their employers, they sell their products, they get profits, but they don't share anything of that what they gain with their workers. So these workers don't have the right to organize, which is a basic workers' right. And the government of Pakistan has ratified 34 ILO convention, and one of the important convention is the right to organize. That is Convention 88. They don't have the right to collective bargaining with the employer, affecting their working conditions. So that is also Convention 98. And you will be surprised that, there are hardly any women working in the plastic value chain. Only that we found out in, so if you are negating, 50% of your workforce from contributing to the development of the country, to the development of your economy, how can you expect that country to flourish? How can you expect that, industry to flourish? So one of the important findings of our survey and research in Saiwal in the plastic value chain, why women are not working, because the conditions of work are not favorable for women. A minimum is like this. For example, they will not have a separate washrooms over there. So how can women work over there? Think of working over there. Only women are working in the plastic sector for when there are bottles which have to be recycled. They are only taking off its label, and that's what they do. And being paid very minimal per bottle sort of a rate. Similarly, the second important thing where we work is sanitation workers. When we talk about the sanitation worker, they are the workers who are cleaning the roads one side, they are still better. But those who are cleaning the main holes, the sewage worker, what about them? The Vasa sewage worker, whether it is they are really working in an inhuman condition, which is not even, imaginable for us. Unacceptable, inhuman condition where a worker, a sewage worker, goes inside a gutter, which is not big enough that if he wears a PPE, then he will not be able to work. So he or she has to go inside the gutter, work in all that dirt and filth and everything, and then then he gets a lot of diseases, he gets a lot of problems, there are a lot of hazards to his health, to the environment. But these are some of the things that, and there are no standard operating procedures even for these workers. There are the agencies which are responsible for these sewage workers. For example, when you're talking about Lahore, it is Vasa, and of course in other cities also. There are no standard operating procedures for them. The trainings that Vasa conducts on occupational safety and health are only for the officers. these sewage workers who have been working for 30 years plus, they are not even given one training on basic occupational safety. It is the ILO who has come for. So I see that, it is our duty as all of us to contribute to promoting decent work in the informal economy. Similarly, when I talk about the domestic workers in Punjab, the domestic workers are a bit better because the government of Punjab has taken a lot of good initiatives. They have come up with a law. They have notified a minimum wage for the domestic workers. They have given them the right to self-affiliate themselves with the social security by paying a very minimal amount of 300 rupees per month. So these are some of the good initiatives, and they are being trained by ILO and by other things. So my request to all of you and my 2 pence is that informal economy is something that contributes a lot to our GDP, to our development of our country, and to the world economy also. We need to take practical step and do our part to promote decent work. We should also think about the workers who are working there. We get the benefits from them, but unfortunately, we never think about them. So this is my intervention. Should be, I think, a food for thought for all of us. And with that, I thank you very much for giving me time. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Razi. I think this is something, the point of doing this seminar was not, or this webinar was not to engage in some media advocacy or to some kind of pump and show that's usually being done on environment days. But the purpose was that, we wanted to get a perspective from industry. We wanted to get a perspective from regional players, from CSOs, and also this perspective that I believe has been missing. I remember the workshop where you brought one of the sanitation workers at Ministry of Climate Change who shared his perspective, and I was stunned because that is something that remains missing from the entire value chain, especially the plastics when we are talking about it. So thank you so much for joining us. Now, Nazifa, coming towards you, being in WWF, you have the leverage of working not just in the communities with different public policy sector stakeholders also, but also with private sectors, because WWF is part of Core Alliance also. You have heard other speakers. Now, you are also working towards integrating circularity and urban resilience. This is a link that not many discuss now. So based on this linkage and based on your personal experience as somebody working in this space, especially being a woman, as Razi has also mentioned, that we haven't seen women workers, especially in the plastic value chain. Although in textile recycling value chain, there are many women who work, but not in this value chain. So what is your perspective? Over to you.
Okay, so I think waste is a problem and has been a problem and will remain a problem if we do not tackle it now. And it needs collaborative effort. When we talk about cities, WWF has a program with the name of Plastic Smart Cities. You can actually check out the website. It is our international website, under which we do different initiatives with the private sector, public sector, and academia, and the general public. I would just like, since we talked about gender, there's a recent project that we're doing with a local producer of plastics, of MLP. So all the biscuits and chips wrappers, which are hard to sort of recycle as well. But what we tried was, let's bring in innovation. And what we tried was to give capacity building trainings to women to learn to use hand looms, and on which now they are making handbags and, laptop sleeves and eye covers and little wallets out of the MLP. And trust me, it is so beautiful. And it gives me a lot of pleasure. And it's so satisfying to see a lot of women. Now, these two looms are placed in Karachi and Islamabad. And these are, of course, the marginalized communities that I'm talking about. So it's not like a very bleak future for women in plastic upcycling and circularity. Definitely women are a key player in that also. But I do understand that in cities, coming to the, resilience and, the part where plastic plays like a villain in the cities, of course, we have poor infrastructure. I'm sure a lot of people have already mentioned that. And I think it's the government's responsibility to, actually depute funds and actually use those funds for creating that infrastructure and enabling environment for the upcoming recyclers also. Because if about 75% of different kinds of plastics is being collected, it's not recycled with the formalized recyclers. There are very few registered recyclers who are actually following the environmental standards. Now, the ones that are in the 3 marla or 4 marla houses, you expect them to have good environmental standards? No. So it's a lot of health and safety challenge as well. When you talk about cities, now they are near the residential colonies as well, so you don't know what kind of air you're breathing. So it does impact the cities as well. It is also because plastic has a higher calorific value. Therefore, it is used as fuel in a lot of industries, and they do not even want to mention it. Another issue that plastic creates, mostly it's the wrappers and the LDP, the polyethylene bag, which actually clogs the drains during the monsoons, and then we have urban flooding. We have seen it in Islamabad, we have seen it in Gujranwala and Karachi, and we had to face a lot of trouble, the residents, of course. Plastic is and will remain a challenge, as I said, that unless we get all the stakeholders on one page, because it's not only the stick that we need to use. I mean, putting bans and making wonderful policies, oh, they're very nice. I mean, you can put it on your website, but at the same time, you can't, if there's no work on ground, it's very difficult to sort of, say that, oh, our policies are really good. When you talk about Rwanda, when Rwanda had, put a ban, they actually made sure that the ban is there. But right now, ICT has a ban on plastic bags, on prohibition and manufacturing in Islamabad territory. But unfortunately, in their waste stream, 60% of the plastics is plastic bags, which is very ironic. So I think that also is something which is very important. And since Pakistan is in an ecological zone where there are a lot of tourist hotspots, we've got the beautiful coast, we've got the northern areas. So the tourist hotspots are also being badly affected by this plastic waste menace. Unfortunately, from Skardu and Khaplu, and I'm talking about the Baltistan region because I happened to visit that recently. So the waste cannot be collected there. There's no mechanism. It cannot be collected and transported to the actual junk dealer, maybe sitting in Abbottabad or Muzaffarabad. So what do we do about that? That's also a part of our country. So we can't only think about Punjab or ICT or Karachi. I mean, Karachi being the biggest city in the country, unfortunately, it is when I am, taking a friend around who's coming from America after 20 years, she was like surprised. She's like, look at Karachi. I mean, there are no roads. There are no skips enough to sort of take care of the garbage that is being put in, and then the scavenging that is being done. I mean, when we were doing sampling on different researches and characterization of plastics, we had to ask the scavengers, and you know what they do? They ask their children to climb up the heap of the, the waste and then pick out. And there are syringes. So there's mixture of medical waste, hazardous waste, and municipal waste. So I think the municipalities also need to be trained in order to make sure that there are segregated, mechanisms available. The deposit refund scheme is for like us. Oh, I will go to Al Fateh or I will go to Dolmen and there is a scheme and I'll just put certain bottles and come back. Oh, that's so nice. But what about the majority? What about the people who are living in Korangi town? What about the people who are living in Faraj town in Islamabad? They're also consuming plastics, but unfortunately, they are actually the hubs where dumping is being done, which is very disturbing, and that not only spoils the aesthetics, but adds to air pollution, adds to the landfill sites, which we don't have. We only have dumping sites. I don't know how many of you have actually gone to Rawalpindi and seen the Loser dumping site, because it is a home to methane gas. Had we gotten a proper landfill site, we would have had a system whereby we could have extracted methane and provided gas to the nearby communities. But this is what the situation is. So there needs to be incentivization as well. So it's not only the bans that are required, but it is community participation and the element of citizen science that needs to be used, because the government or the CSOs or the academia cannot play this role alone. the communities, the household women, they also need to take their part and seriously segregate the waste, because at the end of the day, if we are not doing segregation at source, it is, the problem of plastic collection, improving recycling rates, that's going to prevail.
Thank you very much, Nazifa, and I'm glad that somebody has said it. For the last 2 days, whenever somebody says, why can't we just impose strict bans and stop this plastic production, so, and why, Ms. Zainab, you are an environmentalist, you are not advocating for the bans. I say because I know the landscape in my country, bans will never work. We don't have waste segregation and all those challenges that have been highlighted by you and by all of the speakers. I think this is something that everyone needs to understand. Being an environmentalist, I would love that, the harmful products for the environment, they should be banned. But being a Pakistani, I need to realize and understand how the informal workers are working, what is the current situation for the urban poor in the country, and what about the overall waste management system. If these dynamics are not understood, and when evidence-based policy making is not done, you cannot simply talk about imposing bans on a product. And I think this is not just a status in Pakistan, but also the global status, the global perspective. That's why we are missing out on why legally binding document in the INC is not being finalized. So thank you so much, everyone. Thank you for very valuable input. I think through this platform, we have tried to highlight every sector's, every stakeholder's perspective. I'm thankful to my colleagues who joined in the first session. I'm thankful to the speakers and colleagues who have joined us for this session. I'm sure from this webinar, we have certain key learnings that we should all be advocating in the coming future. We must not stop here on this World Environment Day. Rather, these key messages should be, advocated in other platforms to create awareness among the consumers also, and among all other stakeholders who are missing out on why we are unable to manage the plastic waste. With this message and with this positive thoughts and a hope for a better future, let's just stay united, that we all must advocate for a sustainable environment so that our future generation is able to live a life that they deserve, a life where nature and economic development are in harmony.